Okay, picking up where we left off, we're talking about creating a multi-level bullet list. So let's do some more. Here, I'm going to talk a little bit more about John Doe. So this is going to be, John's phone number is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now once again, I don't want that to be on the same line as John Doe Picnic. It's a sub of John Doe. So once again, I'll click anywhere inside that line, doesn't matter where, and I'm going to increase the indent one more time. Doink. Now in some themes, the size and shape of the bullet changes. It may be a square, and then it goes to a rectangle, then it goes to a diamond, and then it goes to a circle. In this particular case, it looks like they're all the same shape, they just may change in size. So let's look at the size of the fonts here. So I'm just going to click on here and look up here. That's at 24 point. That's okay. That's at 22 point, and that's at 20 point. So it gets smaller and smaller and smaller as you indent over. As you indent, towards the right, the text gets smaller, and that kind of makes sense. The more important things are bigger and at the top, and as you go through, they get smaller. And now I will caution you that 20 point is pretty doggone small for seeing across a crowded room, in a conference room. So this theme may not be the best for that scenario. I recommend no less than about 24. Now I'll admit I've done some that get down to 22. I rarely, if I ever, go to 20. That's just way, way too small. Okay, so bullet lists. Let's say I go, oh man, I made a mistake. That's not the right indentation. So I can undo that. I can make this guy get bigger and, move him around. So it changes it because of the theme. Changing the indent level not only changed the indent, it did a lot more, didn't it? It changed the size of the font, right? The size of the font went up or down, depending on how it goes. So the theme did this for me. Some themes, it might not go down to 20. Some themes, it might not have a text size change at all. It just depends on the theme. Like, once again, I never actually ever used this theme before. But, so, multi-leveled bullet list is probably the most prominent way that people do these kind of slides. Let's talk about what we're doing here. Okay, so suspend the idea of the mechanics of how to make Microsoft, do a presentation. Let's forget about that for a minute. Let's talk about writing style. Bullet lists are typically not complete sentences, okay? They typically don't have punctuation at the end, right? It's not. I didn't say, the annual picnic, is coming. I didn't have a complete sentence. I didn't have a period at the end. These are just bullet lists designed to jog your memory and focus the group, focus yourself and the group. But so we're not talking about complete sentences practically anywhere in here. If it's a bullet list, it's probably not going to be complete sentences. It's going to look just like it does here. Okay, cool. Let's continue. So once again, I can go in here and change all sorts of text attributes. Now I want you to focus on this little box for just a minute. Let's say that, for example, I didn't like where the box is. Now the theme put that box where it is, and so quite frankly, you probably ought not play with it. Otherwise, it'll look kind of funky when you switch from one side to another. But for teaching purposes, I'm going to tweak this. So we have a square box up here, which means I can move that line. All the rest of the box stays the same, except I'm allowed to move that line. Clearly, this is going to do the opposite, right? It's going to go from the bottom, go from the edges. All right, the circle ones are designed to grab and display, and this one, I can make any shape or size. Remember how when we were using graphics, I wanted to be able to grab a corner but maintain the aspect ratio? Well, if I hold the control key down and do this, see how it maintains the aspect ratio? Isn't that pretty cool? Okay. Alright, there's one more. I have a green guy here at the top, and this will allow me to rotate my text. Now, in this particular case, there's no reason to rotate the text, but hey, give me a break. So I'm going to click this little guy, and then I can actually rotate the text, and that's the way it'll look. Okay, that looks ridiculous, but hey, I'm going to hit undo. Okay, cool. And you can rotate in whatever order you want. Now that you've got this thing clicked, you can, rotate this way, you can rotate that way. It doesn't matter. You just kind of move the mouse around and make it rotate. And it kind of tries to kind of snap. See how when you get pretty doggone close to being level, it kind of goes doink, so that, you don't actually end up with things that are slightly off. Okay, cool. Let's continue. So now I want to add another slide. So I want to just add an extra slide. Well, what if I wanted to, I go, oh man, that's not really what I wanted to be for slide number 2. I wanted something before that. So I have two different views up here. I have the editing view, and then over here I have the kind of a miniature version of the slides. Well, if I put the mouse cursor between slide 1 and slide 2, in this little area right here, and do a right click, I can say new slide. So that just, what that did is that inserted a new slide between the slides I already had. Cool. And so once again, I can go in here and say, perhaps this is introduction or something that happened before we talk about upcoming events. Intro. Something. I don't know. Whatever. So let's add some stuff here. Let's talk about those little shaded things. These are some cool little helpers, because they don't really know what it is you want to put here. So you could put a table here, and if you do, that'll help you out. You can put a cool little chart. You can put some graphic things, some photographs, clip art, and maybe even a movie. So if you want to do that, that's no different than you going up here to insert and saying, I'd like to insert a table, a picture, clip art, screenshot, all this is just kind of helpers. And if you want text, well, as soon as you start typing text, third quarter, whatever. As soon as I start typing text, it goes, oh, well, I know what you want to do now. So all those little shaded things go away. Okay, so once again, we've inserted a slide kind of out, out of order. I've put a slide in between some other slides. Okay, so let's kind of continue. One of the things we need to do now is I want to rearrange these slides. Now that I got it, I go, oh man, I was wrong. Once again, I wanted this slide to happen after that. Well, I can actually just grab this slide over here, just hold the mouse key down and move him. Now watch, see how this does? It shows me that it's kind of hard to see. It shows a different kind of cursor here. And so if I grab this guy and I can drag him and drop him there, and so now I've changed the order of the slides. So this allows me to be like the slide sorter. I've got all the slides out there, and I say, hey, this is what I want. Let's say, for example, that you had this third quarter, and you're presenting this to the financial guy. And so you had 15 slides in here. And then somebody else comes in from the marketing department and says, oh man, I'd like to see that slide presentation. Well, more than likely, you probably wouldn't give the exact same details to both audiences. So wouldn't it be kind of cool if you could have all the slides, and then you could just turn some of them off? Just so when I go and present the slides, slide number 2 just doesn't show up. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? Okay, so I'm going to go here, I'm going to right click on a slide. And one of the things that you can talk about is hide. So in this particular case, let's say that I have one presentation that I want to give twice. A detailed version and then a baby version. That doesn't go into that much detail. I could copy and paste and have 2 slide presentations. One that has 15 slides in it and one that has 5 slides in it. That would work. But it's much easier just go in here and turn these slides on and off. So doink. Now it shows that it's there, but you can kind of sort of tell that when I present these slides, it's going to skip over slide number 2 and go directly to slide 3. That pretty cool? Okay, let's continue. Let's do some sort of clip art kind of thing. I'm going to add some clip art into here. So as you can probably imagine, I go here. Now, because I started typing, I no longer get that little cool grayed out thing, so I have no choice but to go up here. So I'll go to clip art, and I hit the clip art button, and you should type in, how about money? Since this is a third quarter report, I'm going to type in money, because I want some sort of a graphic of money. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to grab this guy. And once again, I can grab this guy and just drag him onto the screen and put him exactly where I want him. Like, I want him way up here in the upper corner. Doink. Isn't that pretty cool? Okay. I can also, just like before, I can grab this clip art and, make him, stretch him out and kind of mess up his aspect ratio. Remember we talked about aspect ratio? I grab the corner. Remember how we can... Now, here they're pretty much well protected from aspect ratio drift, which is pretty cool. I just make it smaller and larger. And pick this guy up and move him. So when I pick him up and move him, I pick anywhere on the inside here, even the white space, and pick him up and move him around. So I do not want to click on the square or the circle or the green circle when I'm moving him around. But I do want to, if I want to give it a little angle or something, I could do that. Okay, so clip art is all about, trying to add a little bit of flavor to your slides to kind of keep people interested. Okay, so inserting clip art with the clip art organizer, you can do a search. I mentioned to you before that if you're pulling clip art off of Microsoft product or down here where it says find more at office.com, it's going to go out to the internet and pulls them down. You're pretty much guaranteed to have the rights to use these things. Okay, now once again, the clip art should not be overwhelming. It should not be, dancing girls and all sorts of motion and all sorts of strange. I've seen entire, commercials in all sorts of goofy animation and stuff that happens on these screens. And, sure, it was entertaining, but all eyes were pointing in the wrong direction. So that's probably not a good thing. So we talk about resizing clip art. Yeah, that's pretty simple. Let's keep going. Move it around. That's pretty easy. Click anywhere in here. Just kind of give it a tug. Kind of cool. I'm going to go over here to the picture tools just to look at the options here. So I'll go here to format, and I can go in and pick a border. Do I want it to look like a photograph? Yeah. Oh, I like that one with the little drop shadow. Isn't that pretty cool? And they have one that, so I'm going to leave the drop shadow on. I think that looks pretty nice, actually. So now I have my clip art with a little drop shadow behind it. Cool. So let your artistic abilities kind of flourish there. Okay, let's say that I've got this where I want it, and so I want another slide that looks identical to this one. Because, it took me a while to find that clip art and put it and size it exactly where I want it and rotate it and tweak it. And so now that I've kind of sort of got it the way I want to use that for like 2 or 3 slides in a row. So wouldn't it be kind of cool if I could just kind of copy and paste that guy to go? Well, sure enough you can. I can go here, and it was one that says duplicate slide. Isn't that pretty cool? And it's what it's going to do. It's going to produce another copy right below this one. Doink. And now I can go in and change this introduction to whatever, something else. Blah, 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 blah. And blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's a cool way of, once I got it exactly the way I want it, I could just make a duplicate slide of that. Now, the other ways you could have done it is I could actually go here and say copy, and then go down here to a blank spot and do paste. That works just as well, but there's more to it than that. Right click and say duplicate is, to me, easier to save some steps. It'll always go in the right spot, and I can always tell what's going on. Okay. So we're talking about arranging slides. I can go in here and move this guy. Just grab him and pull him up and say, okay, he belongs here, as an example. And then if I don't want a slide, I can delete him. As long as I select the guy here, I could just hit the delete key on the keyboard. Doink, he's gone. That's one way of doing it. Or you can just right click. Right click here and just say delete slide. And doink, he's gone. So lots of ways you can work inside this slide sorter view. Okay, this is probably a good place to stop for the 15-minute mark. We'll pick this thing up again in just a few.